Well, the mamas are in the house. I can tell that not because I see a lot of new faces of mothers, but because I see some familiar old faces of children. Back, good to have you here. Your mother, Ascension, welcomes you home. We have a phrase in my house, sometimes you have to be the mom. Doesn't matter what gender you are, sometimes you have to be the mom. And what this means is that sometimes, as uncomfortable as it feels, you have to stand up for your rights, for your dignity, for your children, for someone else's dignity who's not being honored. And we say that because we've seen our mothers do that over and over and over. And we've seen them kind of get this look on their face like Matthias must have gotten. Oh, the lot has fallen to me. I'm the one. I have to show up. I have to do it. I have to be the mom. I want to give you a few snapshots of some mothers who felt that and experienced that in a dramatic way. Many of you know Thomas Edison. You know, he was America's great inventor. He developed the phonograph, the motion picture, the electric light bulb, the first electric power grid, one of the first electric cars, 14 different businesses, one of which is General Electric, one of the largest publicly traded companies in the world still today. But Edison wasn't much of a student and might have amounted to very little had it not been for his mother, Nancy. Nancy homeschooled her son after his teacher deemed him addled. Addled, it seemed in that day, must have referred to dyslexia or ADHD or something along those lines. And Edison said later in his life of his mother, "My mother was the making of me. She was so true, so sure of me, and I felt I had something to live for, someone I must not disappoint." Irina Sindler was another mother, a Polish employee at the Warsaw Social Welfare Department, who saved the lives of almost 2,500 Jewish children by smuggling them out of the Warsaw Ghetto during the Holocaust. She gave these children false identification documents establishing temporary non-Jewish identities for them and placing them in convents and orphanages and Christian homes. Consider what she must have felt like at the time, supposedly supposed to do her job, and yet faced with this thing that which now, looking back in history, we see as a clear call what any human being should have done, but must have felt so out of the norm and against the rules for her and dangerous. The Nazis arrested her and tortured her, and still she wouldn't give up any information about the operation. Ultimately, she was sentenced to be executed and was only saved by a friend who bribed one of the Gestapo soldiers. Sindler was the mother of 3 children of her own, which she cared for through 2 marriages and 2 divorces. And then there's Kathy Headley in our day, who started Mothers Without Borders. She was struck by news stories of the orphans in Romania and went in 1992 to deliver 40 tons of supplies to orphanages and to train caregivers there. And since then, Mother Without Borders has been to dozens of countries all across the world. Now they focus their efforts in Zambia, where there's an estimated 1 million orphans fleeing war. Much of Mothers Without Borders' work involves supporting women to create a stronger network of caregivers for these children. And Headley has been quoted as saying, "Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Give a woman a sewing machine and she will change the world." Then there's a little closer to home, Dr. Dana Suskin. She's a pediatric surgeon in Chicago, the University of Chicago. She spent her early career placing cochlear implants and then studying the children that had received this treatment. And she found a very wide range of response. She couldn't understand why some children did so well and others didn't. who had the same physiognomy. Then she realized that the parents of some children weren't talking to them and interacting with them. And she did more and deeper research. And she found that children who are not spoken to or interacted with as much in the first 3 years of life have a much lower brain development. In fact, she discovered that 85% of a child's brain develops in the first 3 years. Only 5% of public funding for children is given during that time. So she developed this initiative called the 30 Million Words Initiative, in which she trains and supports mothers of children in low-income situations to deliberately talk more and engage more. And she is literally raising the IQ of children across Chicago. She's also a mother of 3 children and widowed. And then one of the most remarkable women and mothers I've ever heard of is Lao Zhejing, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, who was a trash picker and a scavenger in the landfills of her home in Zhejiang, China. In 1972, she found a discarded infant girl still alive in the trash and nursed her to health and found a household who would take the child in. Imagine the lots being cast with you there in the trash heap, finding a live infant. Amazing. She said, watching this little girl grow and become stronger gave us such happiness. I realized I had a real love of caring for children. I realized if we had strength enough to collect garbage, how could we not recycle something as important as human lives? See, the chaos of the of the Cultural Revolution in China, and later China's one-child policy and extreme poverty, especially in the rural areas, meant that some Chinese parents had to just dump their children off, or they felt they faced no other option. During her life, Lu adopted or rescued 30 babies she found in the landfill. And these children need love and care, she said. They are all precious human lives. Lu had herself one biological daughter and single-handedly adopted a 6th child at the age of 82. That's remarkable people, remarkable mothers. And many of you have that same impulse. You know what it's like to bring children into the world and then feel fiercely protective of them, wanting them to succeed, wanting them to come forward. You know when you've drawn that pregnancy test and you felt the lots cast for you to become that mother. And many of us who have walked beside you, who are men and have had the privilege to stand with you, have picked up on that and have learned a little bit that the lots can be cast for us also. And that's what we see in Jesus today, in Jesus' gospel, what we see throughout the gospels about Jesus. First, the quality of protection. Jesus cared about the people who walked with him. He fed them. He healed them. He stilled the storm. He invited them into deeper and deeper walks of faith. At one point, he said, you got everything you need, go out. Take nothing for your journey. No sandals, no extra tunic. Go do what I've been doing. How many mothers have done a good job of that? Sent their children out, said, you're ready, you can do it. I'm going to celebrate you. Jesus talks of himself as a mother hen, gathering his chicks under his wings. Oh, how I long, Jerusalem, to pull you under my wings. Fiercely protective. But Jesus does something else that's very characteristic of these mothers and of excellent mothers. And that's he lets his people go. This passage from John comes just hours, perhaps, before Jesus is arrested and sent to the cross. And he knows he's going to be taken away. And he's praying to the Creator to care for his people that he's taught and who have walked with him. And he's praying with this deep trust because he knows that his protection isn't the fullness. He knows that his ability to protect has only come from the Creator. And now he's calling on that same Creator to help him walk into what he has to do by taking care of those whom God has sent to him. We come here most every Sunday, and one of the most striking things in front of us is this image of Christ ascended. It's a beautiful image, isn't it? It's gorgeous. And much of what we've said during the course of church history about this event in Jesus' life is that he was raised to glory. He was seated at the right hand of God. He has since got the reward that he deserved for going through the pain and suffering that he did. But think a minute from Jesus' point of view. If you were raised from the dead and you were back with your children or those you deeply loved and you were resurrected, wouldn't you want to hang around? Wouldn't you feel like, I just need to be here a little longer and take care of them? I need to watch out for them. I need to make sure that they brush their teeth and eat their dinner right and make sure that they heal the sick and take care of the poor. And yet, that's not what Jesus did. He had this deep, abiding trust in the Creator to carry that work forward. And he knew that by going to be with the Creator, he would still continue all those prayers. And in fact, through the Eucharist, he continues to pray for his church. He continues to pray for you and me, who have been called by the lots cast and breathed into new life by the Spirit.